Just when Vikings fans thought the biggest story in Minnesota was the quarterback battle, another wave of questions hit this team all at once. A familiar defensive name is suddenly being linked to a return, Nolan Teasley is already making surprising changes inside the front office, and the conversation around J.J. McCarthy has taken a dramatic turn. But what happened at minicamp this week may have offered a glimpse into where this franchise is really headed. One of the biggest questions hanging over this roster isn't at quarterback. It isn't even on offense. It's happening on the edge of Brian Flores' defense, where depth suddenly feels a lot thinner than many fans expected a few months ago. Ever since the Vikings moved on from Jonathan Greenard, there's been a lingering feeling that something is missing behind Andrew Van Ginkel and Dallas Turner. The starters are talented. Nobody is questioning that. The concern is what happens when the season gets long, injuries start piling up, and Flores needs dependable rotational pieces who already understand the complexity of his system. That's where an old friend enters the conversation. Jihad Ward remains available, and honestly, the more you look at the situation, the more this reunion starts to make sense. Fans remember his time in Minnesota because he wasn't asked to be a superstar. He wasn't expected to carry the pass rush. Instead, he embraced a role that many players struggled to accept. He provided toughness, flexibility, and reliability whenever the coaching staff called his number. Those types of players often become more valuable than people realize when a season starts testing a roster's depth. During his previous stint with the Vikings, he started games when needed and even played a significant role during the playoff run. Since leaving Minnesota, he proved he can still contribute. Last season with Tennessee, Ward started 12 games and delivered 5 sacks along with 47 pressures. Those aren't elite numbers, but they're exactly the kind of production contenders look for when building roster depth. What makes this even more intriguing is his versatility. At 6'5" and around 285 pounds, he can move around the defensive front in ways Flores loves to utilize. Some snaps as an edge defender, some snaps inside, different looks, different responsibilities. That's valuable in a defense built around confusion and unpredictability. And for a coordinator who constantly asks players to adapt, that flexibility matters. Then there's the financial side. At 32 years old and still sitting in free agency, Ward likely isn't commanding a massive contract. For a team looking to strengthen a vulnerable position without breaking the budget, that matters. The Vikings don't need another star. They need stability. They need experience. They need someone who can step onto the field tomorrow and understand exactly what's being asked of him. The question now is whether Nolan Teasley sees the same opportunity that many Vikings fans are starting to see. While fans have been focused on minicamp battles and roster competitions, something important has quietly been happening inside the building. A new era is beginning behind closed doors. Whenever a new general manager arrives, change is inevitable. Sometimes it happens slowly, sometimes it happens immediately. Nolan Teasley appears to be choosing the second option. Reports this week revealed that several notable front office figures are moving on as Teasley starts reshaping the organizational structure. Assistant General Manager Demetrius Washington has been granted the opportunity to explore other options, while senior personnel executive Jamal Stevenson, senior college executive Pat Roberts, and pro scout Sally Clavel are also departing. For longtime fans, those names carry weight. Stevenson spent nearly 25 years with the franchise. Roberts dedicated over a decade to the organization. Those aren't small changes. Those are significant shifts in institutional knowledge. The kind that can quietly influence how a franchise evaluates talent for years. At the same time, one name that many fans expected to disappear remains in place. Ryan Grigson has been retained, which has certainly sparked debate throughout Vikings Nation. Some supporters are surprised, others are frustrated, but the bigger takeaway here is that Teasley isn't walking into this role intending to preserve every existing process. He's already putting his fingerprints on the franchise. That's what leaders do when they believe they have a vision. What's fascinating is that these front office decisions may only be the beginning, because according to multiple reports, Teasley could soon face an even bigger challenge. The quarterback situation. Tom Pelissero recently suggested that Kevin O'Connell and Teasley may leave this week with a strong understanding of who should lead the offense moving forward. Think about that for a second. The new general manager hasn't even fully settled into his office, and one of the most important quarterback decisions in recent franchise history may already be approaching. That's the kind of pressure that defines careers. And depending on what happens next, Vikings fans may look back at this week as one of the first real indicators of Teasley's long-term vision. Now let's talk about the storyline that refuses to go away, because every time it feels like the quarterback conversation is settling down, another layer gets added to it. For months, much of the discussion surrounding J.J. McCarthy felt overwhelmingly negative. Questions about development, questions about readiness, questions about whether he could truly become the future face of the franchise. But suddenly, the tone has changed. Almost overnight, reports have become significantly more positive. Coaches are praising his growth. Analysts are highlighting improvement. Former players are publicly expressing confidence in his potential. Kevin O'Connell has emphasized that a legitimate competition exists. Wes Phillips described McCarthy's progress as a continuous upward climb. On the surface, that sounds encouraging. Vikings fans want their young quarterback to develop. They want reasons to believe. But some observers aren't buying the timing. A growing theory has emerged suggesting that Minnesota may be intentionally increasing McCarthy's perceived value around the league. Why? Because if another team becomes interested, trade possibilities could become more realistic before training camp arrives. Whether you agree with that theory or not, it's difficult to ignore how dramatically the public messaging has shifted. Earlier this offseason, many conversations centered around concerns. Now the focus is optimism, confidence, improvement, potential. Meanwhile, Kyler Murray remains firmly in the picture. Minnesota didn't bring in a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback simply to hold a clipboard. That's why every new comment and every new report gets dissected by fans looking for clues. And that's what makes this situation so fascinating. Is McCarthy truly making significant strides? Or is the organization carefully managing perception while exploring every available option? The truth probably sits somewhere in the middle. Development can be real. Trade interest can be real too. The NFL operates in shades of gray far more often than fans would like to admit. What nobody can deny is that McCarthy has become one of the most fascinating players in football right now. Every throw, every practice report, every public statement carries additional meaning. The closer we get to training camp, the more attention this story is going to attract. And until a final decision arrives, the speculation isn't slowing down anytime soon. Then came the comments that may have revealed more than anyone intended. Because when quarterbacks are splitting reps equally during minicamp, their reactions often tell you as much as their performance. On one side, there was calm. On the other, visible frustration. J.J. McCarthy approached the situation with a remarkably composed mindset. Asked about sharing opportunities, he simply acknowledged that the distribution of reps isn't under his control, and that his focus remains on maximizing every chance he gets. That's the response of someone trying to block out the noise, someone attempting to stay present, someone who understands the pressure but refuses to publicly engage with it. Then there was Kyler Murray. His comments painted a different picture. Murray openly acknowledged that splitting reps has made learning the offense more difficult, especially given that he's still adapting to Kevin O'Connell's system. And honestly, it's understandable. Veteran quarterbacks thrive on repetition. Timing matters. Familiarity matters. Every missed rep can feel significant when you're trying to establish command of an offense, especially when a starting job is hanging in the balance. O'Connell, meanwhile, appears completely comfortable with the process. He reiterated that the Vikings have a plan and suggested that a decision may come sooner rather than later. Tom Pelissero echoed that sentiment, indicating the coaching staff could have a strong idea of their starter by the end of the week. That's where this story becomes so important, because this isn't just about week one, it's about the future. Murray is 29 years old and currently under a short-term situation. If he thrives, Minnesota faces difficult contract questions down the road. If he struggles, the organization could pivot quickly. McCarthy represents the opposite path: youth, development, long-term control, potential. The Vikings essentially stand at a crossroads. One road offers proven experience, the other offers long-term projection. Both carry risk, both carry opportunity. And judging by the urgency surrounding these recent comments, it feels like the franchise may already be getting closer to a choice that could shape the next several years. That's why this moment feels bigger than a typical June minicamp. We're watching roster decisions, front office changes, quarterback battles, and long-term franchise planning all unfold at the same time. Some answers are coming soon, others may take months. But one thing remains true: every person inside that building understands how important these next few weeks are. The direction of this team may look a lot clearer by the time training camp arrives. So now I want to hear from you. Should the Vikings bring Jihad Ward back? Who wins the quarterback battle in your mind? And what do you think Nolan Teasley's first major move should be? Drop your thoughts below. No matter where this road leads, we'll be following every step together. Stay tuned. SKOL Vikings, let's go.